Close your eyes for a moment. Can you still hear the soft click of a cassette tape slipping into your Walkman, or feel the static from your favorite neon windbreaker against your skin? There's a special magic in recalling the bold, electric pulse of the 1980s, a decade when floppy disks were high-tech, arcade games ruled weekend nights, and the world seemed caught between hope and uncertainty. American life moved to the beat of synthesizers, from Friday night sitcoms flickering on boxy TVs to blockbuster movies that brought entire neighborhoods to the local theater. It was a time of big hair, bigger dreams, and a sense that anything was possible, whether you were memorizing Pac-Man cheats or taping chart-topping hits straight off the radio. But beneath the flash and fun, the 80s brought changes that shaped how we connect, work, and play even today. Do you remember the thrill of seeing your first computer, or the icy tension of the world beyond our borders? Join us as we rediscover the unforgettable spirit of the 80s and ask yourself, what made this decade stand out so much in your heart? Let's step back and relive the unforgettable moments that still inspire us all these years later. When we talk about the 1980s, it's easy to remember the sights and sounds that filled our homes, but rarely do we step back and ask, what kind of world created the unique flavor of this unforgettable decade? To truly appreciate the 80s, we need to set the stage, basking in the glow of what came before and the swift tides of change that made the era so distinctive. So let's rewind. Imagine the last rays of the 1970s as they faded. America was weary. From recession, inflation, and questions about its place in a fast-changing world. The Iran hostage crisis and gas lines left a lingering uncertainty. Yet, as the curtain rose on a new decade, hope was inching back in, even if it looked different than before. In 1980, a former Hollywood actor named Ronald Reagan swept into Washington with promises to restore American pride and optimism. Reagan's sunny rhetoric, combined with decisive Cold War politics, sometimes made everyday life feel like a movie montage. Rockets and rhetoric abroad, economic gambles and tax changes at home, all scored to a synth-heavy soundtrack. Many of us can still recall the nervous excitement of watching news anchors talk about Star Wars, not the movie, but the Strategic Defense Initiative, a real plan to zap enemy missiles from the sky. Did you ever wonder just how close we came to living those spy thriller plots we saw on TV? But it wasn't only the global stage undergoing transformation. American families were changing too. Traditional boundaries were breaking down as more women entered the workforce. In 1980, just over half of married women held jobs. By decade's end, that number approached two-thirds, reshaping daily routines and family dynamics forever. Suddenly, microwave ovens and instant dinners became household staples, not just luxuries featured in magazines. On busy weeknights, did you find yourself reaching for a Swanson's TV dinner? Or maybe heating up leftovers to keep up with the new pace of life? Meanwhile, the population itself was growing more diverse. Immigration from Asia and Latin America surged, enriching neighborhoods with new flavors, traditions, and ideas. If you grew up in a city or suburb, you might remember the first time you tasted takeout from the new Thai place down the block, or heard music blaring from a boombox in a language you'd never heard before. It was a vibrant, sometimes confusing, but ultimately thrilling movement. America reinventing itself right in your own backyard. On the airwaves, radio DJs moved from disco to new wave and rock, while a restless energy echoed big changes in other rooms of the house. The election of Reagan signaled not just a political shift, but also a cultural realignment. Patriotism surged, and so did debates over what it meant to be American. This era brought a new focus on flashy consumerism. Suddenly brands and logos, Nike's swoosh, Levi's patch, Apple's rainbow, became symbols of Identity. Did you have a favorite brand or product in those years? Something that seemed to say a little bit about who you were? The decade's drive for innovation was fueled by remarkable developments in technology. The personal computer era was stumbling out of the garage and into the den, thanks in large part to affordable models like the IBM PC and the first Apple Macintosh. In 1981, only a handful of families owned a computer at home. By 1989, nearly 1 in 4 American households did. One surprising fact: the very first IBM PC released in 1981 cost nearly $600, more than $4,500 in today's dollars, but it could only display text on a monochrome screen, and its memory was measured in kilobytes, not gigabytes. Can you imagine explaining that to your grandchildren today? Entertainment also transitioned in giant leaps. The launch of MTV in 1981 revolutionized how people discovered music, no longer just by sound, but by sight. Artists became icons overnight, and clever or outrageous videos could catapult a song up the charts. Who could forget the first time they saw Michael Jackson's Thriller or Madonna's Like a Virgin on the family TV? It wasn't just entertainment, it felt like a window into a more colorful, daring, and international world. Let's not forget how these influences shaped the everyday schoolchild or teenager. The 80s classroom looked much different by the end of the decade than it had before. Copy machines replaced mimeographs, chalkboards started giving way to dry erase boards. And in forward-thinking schools, students got their first taste of digital education with computer labs, those tan plastic boxes humming with endless potential. Here's a fun fact. Oregon Trail, one of the most iconic computer games of the decade, actually began as a simple text-based adventure back in 1971, but really hit its stride in schools with the Apple II's pixelated graphics in the 80s. Did you ever try to ford the river only to lose half your wagon? Culturally, sports provided both continuity and excitement. Old favorites endured, with packed Friday night football stands in towns big and small, and legends like Magic Johnson and Larry Bird transforming basketball into a national obsession. The 1980 Miracle on Ice, when the US Olympic hockey team defeated the Soviet Union, sent a surge of pride across the country. Where were you that day? Do you remember huddling around the TV, cheering as history was made? Yet, for all its optimism and innovation, the 80s weren't immune to darker shadows. The threat of nuclear war colored the news and even crept into popular entertainment, with films like The Day After sparking real discussions about what the future held. The AIDS crisis began to spread quietly before exploding into public view, bringing tragedy and calls for compassion in its wake. Yet, even in hardship, Americans distinguished themselves with resilience, looking for ways to help their neighbors and educate themselves. It's hard to overstate just how much the early 80s felt like a new beginning. Cities struggled with crime, but the seeds of the yuppie culture, urban professionals filling up coffee shops and buying condos, were sprouting. Meanwhile, suburban malls rose as the ultimate after-school hangout, with food courts, cinemas, and record stores beckoning teenagers everywhere. Who could forget hours spent browsing racks at the Gap or waiting for your turn? At Pac-Man in the arcade? What underpinned all this was a sense of anticipation, of standing at the threshold of something big and new. Cable TV extended our reach, not just across the country, but to the world. Families huddled around ever bigger screens to watch the launch of the Space Shuttle program, or live footage of royal weddings and rock concerts overseas. Each week brought headlines that made the world seem both smaller and faster than ever before. So, as the echoes of the 1970s faded and the chill of the Cold War persisted, the 1980s rolled forward, colorful, complex, and bursting with possibility. If you were there, you could sense it in the air. This was an era unlike any that had come before. But that's just the beginning of our journey. If the spirit of the times was changing, So was everything we brought into our houses. What technological marvels and inventions would define the decades look and feel, transforming not just how we saw the world, but how the world saw us. Stay with us as we dig deeper into the innovations and gadgets that became the signature of the 80s. As we reach the end of our journey through the 1980s, it's remarkable to see just how deeply this unforgettable era wove itself into the very fabric of our lives. We started by recalling the uncertainty and hope that greeted the new decade, the way America emerged from the shadows of the 1970s, eager for a brighter future and open to rapid change. In our look back, we revisited all the ways society began to shift. Families reorganized around new routines as more women worked outside the home, while microwave dinners and after-school mall runs became symbolic of changing times. The world outside our windows was evolving too. Diverse voices, new immigration, and the bold promise of technology gently nudged us toward a more connected future. We remembered the thrill of witnessing innovation in action. Personal computers crept into dens and classrooms, bulky yet brimming with promise, igniting curiosity in children who would someday turn those glowing green screens into gateways to the world. Iconic music videos exploded into our living rooms, changing not just what we listened to, but what we saw and imagined possible. From the pulsing soundtrack of new wave hits to the unforgettable moonwalk across a televised stage, every song and every picture was a thread in a rich, communal tapestry. We also recognized the challenges, rising tensions on the world stage, the looming threat of nuclear war, and the unique struggles here at home. Yet even in those moments, the resilience and optimism of the era shone through. Communities found new ways to come together, whether it was cheering for the underdog US hockey team's miracle on ice, or facing difficult realities with empathy and strength. What truly stands out about the 80s isn't just the gadgets, the fashion, or the music. It's how the decade invited us to dream bigger than before. There was an energy in the air, a belief that, however imperfect, tomorrow could be brighter, bolder, and, above all, ours to shape. The laughter echoing from arcades, the glow of neon mall signs, and the dizzying rush of progress made everyday moments feel extraordinary. Looking back, what memories from that era bring a smile to your face? Is it a particular song, a gadget, or a family tradition that best captures the spirit of the 80s for you? Take a moment to share your favorite 80s memory in the comments below. The stories you add make this celebration even richer for all of us. If you enjoyed reliving this remarkable decade, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more nostalgic journeys. Don't hesitate to share with friends and loved ones who might cherish these memories too. And be sure to stay tuned for more adventures into the eras that shaped us. After all, the 80s taught us that no matter how fast the world might spin, there's always a little bit of magic to be found in the memories we carry and share. Until next time, keep the spirit of the 80s alive, one memory, one song, and one bright neon flash at a time.